mix of veterans and rookies have come together. But Giants, they want to sit at the top of the table still, 4-1. We highlighted it earlier. One of the big players we are going to be watching is Ruin. This man has had some fantastic performances over the last few weeks. And while yesterday he wasn't really the focus in their game versus Roccat, he's still a consistent performer that Giants can often rely on. And going up against a player like Chachi, that always makes for an exciting duel up in the top.
That it does. Kalista banned from Giants. It's the Azir and the Zac removed by Schalke 04. And it's not often that you see two coaches battling against each other in pick and ban as well. You have to remember, Naruto Rador worked under Andre when they were both on Giants. So there's a lot more mind games in this pick and ban than perhaps we usually see.
As much as I'd like to believe that right now, a lot of the bans are very standard. Doesn't feel like there's any real target bans for the time being. Giants and Schalke willing to leave the Sejuani open, along with things like the Kog'Maw, the Tahm Kench, some of the other big power picks that we have seen coming into fruition over the last few weeks. Zoe also been rising in popularity recently.
I'd really like to see a Kha'Zix ban here from Giants because it's the only thing that Pride has looked effective on in the early game. Instead, it is going to be the Varus. Schalke 04 have first pick. As you say, the Zoe is available for them if they want it.
They might just put Upset on the Kog'Maw if they want to guarantee Upset a pretty strong and relatively safe AD carry. But instead, we're going to see a bit of a shift for Pride. This is his first Sejuani game. So far, we've only seen him play the Kha'Zix and the Jarvan. And I like this shift. I like the change in mindset. It was a bit of an issue, the Kha'Zix pick yesterday in terms of the comp, but now Schalke have secured themselves very early in Gage.
We really want to track those two junglers when we get into the game, so we'll make sure to keep eyes on them. Is going to be Caitlyn here for Steelback, something that he has picked up once before in one of their victories. Was unkilled on it as well, so it's a strong pick for Steelback. And alongside that, Giants now perhaps looking towards the jungle, could of course go for something like a Braum as well, or even a Tahm Kench.
I think that Braum would be pretty safe, but it depends on how much power they want in the 2 versus 2. Just securing a Gnar for Ruin, I think, is a very safe option. It's one of his big comfort champions. I believe it's also one of his most played during this split so far. And he's had a lot of consistent performances on it. The fact that he is allowed to build his own leads during the laning phase, along with having a big impact in team fights, I think fits the Giant style and fits Ruin's playstyle as well.
His ability to translate a lead in his individual lane to a lead across the rest of the map is absolutely exemplary. Schalke 04 looking towards the Camille here, is going to get locked in. Could of course be for that top lane matchup against the Gnar, but we have also seen Jungle Camille coming out.
I'd be surprised given that the Sejuani is locked in.
That would be very surprising, wouldn't it, Vedius? But support Camille?
Alternatively as well. But I do think that most likely is that it will be up against the Gnar. I think that with the introduction of Comet, it makes trading in lane so much easier for the Camille, and she scales very nicely and should eventually get to a point where she can quite happily duel that Gnar as well. Nukeduck taking a bit of a shift, looking perhaps not to be the big carry in this game.
The Galio pick in the mid lane, more about safety, more about being able to get that level 6 and then roam the map, helping out the rest of your team. We saw Roccat run it yesterday against Giants. Didn't work out too well for them, and Betsy is going to get the Zoe. So expect an explosive mid matchup from one side and a very passive mid matchup from the other.
Now the siege from Giants is already starting to come together very nicely. Caitlyn with the long range and the traps. Zoe with the over the wall and darkness poke and pick power will combine very nicely. That if Giants are able to get an early game lead, which to be fair, they've been pretty good at doing, they will be a menace to deal with when sieging up against those towers. But Schalke, they have good engage themselves to kind of answer it. So now for Schalke, we're looking around things out with a bit of damage and perhaps a bit of follow-up. They'd love to get their hands on things like a Braum and maybe even a Kog'Maw. The only issue with the Kog'Maw is that they would have quite a lot of magic damage on their side, whereas for Giants, I feel that they're looking for a little bit of engage themselves. Perhaps they're the ones that want to disengage, depending on whether they want to pivot now to a little bit more of a team fight comp, or if they just want to stick to this poke, siege, disengage style of play.
Giants have removed the Jinx and the Kog'Maw from the pool. Tahm Kench and Skarner taken away by Schalke. The Braum is still a very real possibility here for Giants if they want a relatively safe bottom lane. Schalke and 04 have a slew of options to them, but Giants are going to be the first ones to lock in here. It's interesting to see the Jinx banned from them, considering we have only had one Jinx played throughout the entire tournament, and it was by Steelback himself.
Bit of respect going over to Upset, I would imagine. Ooh, we're going for the Gragas. Now, this is something that we talked about in our draft of the first game of the day. Gragas, by many pros, is considered to be a good answer to the Sejuani, and we're looking at that disengaged champion, the ability to turn around fights, stop the opposition from going for that hard engage comp. Whereas Schalke, they're committing a little bit more to that hard engage. You have the Sejuani start off the fight, and then you have the Galio ulti to follow up with the Braum jumping in ulti as well. A lot of team fight value, and then you've got the added damage of the Twitch. You throw Camille in there as well, and it becomes so much easier to lock down these slippery targets like the Caitlyn, like the Zoe. And Schalke is saying, we're gonna bring the fight to you, Giants. We're gonna go for that scaling playstyle. We know you like to play the slow early game, and we finally get to see the brand.
Deficio has been playing this all week in solo queue. It's so strong into melee supports. You get so much extra damage. He was buffed on 8.1. I'm really looking forward to this bottom lane because Targamas is a support who wants to be aggressive in lane. He wants to play on the front foot. He wants to win lane. And if they can do that against a Twitch and a Braum, that really sets up Giants for success.
And you just look at these lanes. In the early game, Ruin should have decent pressure over the Camille. Zoe will be able to threaten the Galio due to the limited wave clear that he does have at early levels and the fact that he is a melee champion. And Caitlyn Brand down in the bottom lane. That is so much poke, so much harass. Their eyes are set on taking this early tower bot, and it is going to be very difficult to stop them.
Vedius, this is the first Brand we have seen in the top 5 leagues in the spring split this year. I am so looking forward to watching this bottom lane. We want to track the junglers as well because of how Pride has now switched onto this Sejuani. Mid lane is going to be interesting because is Betsy going to roam? Is he going to push? That's the question. There is so much for us to watch this game and so much for the players to have to do as well. Giants 4-1. Never would have thought that I would say that coming into the end of week 3, but they are looking like one of the powerhouses of Europe at the moment.
Oh, they certainly are. They found a strategy that works for them, and they are so effective at implementing it. Really looking forward to talking a little bit more about the brand. Once we get into game, you can see the fans are very excited to see both Schalke and Giants go up against each other. The battle of the boys in blue. And again, reminder, Giants 4-1, sitting at the top of the table with many other teams. And Schalke struggling a little bit.
So Vedius, I'm going to open up the options for you. We have mid lane matchup with the Zoe into Galio. We've got top lane matchup with the Gnar into the Camille. We've got the jungle matchup, Gragas into Sejuani.
Yeah,
that seems really interesting.
It does.
We could talk about the AD carries.
No, we're talking about
Caitlyn
Brand.
and Twitch?
We're talking about Brand.
Okay, let's talk about Brand.
Why is Brand being played? The reason is, back on patch 8.1, he received a bit of a buff to his passive, right? And for those that might not be aware, when Brand is able to land 3 of his abilities, you get a bit of a passive applied called Blaze, which starts a little fuse running around you, and then it does percentage max health damage. That was buffed from 2% to 4%. And you'd think, that's not that big of a deal. And early levels, no, it's not. But it begins to stack up, especially in these big team fights, when that passive applies to multiple members. You can do huge amounts of damage to single targets, to multiple targets, in a very short space of time. And that doesn't even start to begin to talk about the amount of poke that he naturally has in lane. His Pillar of Flame, combined with the fact that if he lands his Q onto a target that is already burning, they will get stunned, the Caitlyn trap can immediately follow up, and then you risk getting all-in'd by this 2v2 bot lane. Very exciting to watch. Typically, the only range supports we've seen are the Zilean and the Janna. Now we get to see a much more aggressive support in the Brand.
Targamas loves his aggressive supports, mostly plays the Thresh. Brought that out yesterday. We saw Jack Troll do well on it as well today, but already Upset takes a chunk. He's got red buff, Vedius. Not sure if that was gifted to him or if Pride mistimed the poison step.
Well, our observers, I'm sure, will be able to help us out with that one. We can take a look back and see exactly how that resulted, but it will give him a little bit more regeneration in the laning phase. Definitely going to be valuable as Chachi goes for an all-in on Ruin.
Has a level advantage on Ruin here as well. Going to get some damage down. Ruin looking for the Rage Bar to build up, and will get some health back from that.
Very nice trade there from Vizic. Chachi taking advantage of the early level spike to get a good all-in. Again, note the Comet being picked up for Chachi. We talked a little bit about how that has made Camille a little bit more of a staple up in the top lane for many regions around the world, but not really here in Europe. And it is working very nicely in the 1v1.
Let's have a quick look at this. So picture-in-picture.
He messed it up.
He messes it up. Messes it up, and it is going to help upset in the lane. Gets him a little bit more sustain. But we need to track these junglers because Pride's changed role now. He's gone from the Kha'Zix, is now moving over towards this Sejuani. Joko trying to put some pressure on him. Has double buffs for himself, just flaunting them in Pride's face. Like, excuse me, where's your second buff? I know it's in the bottom lane, so Joko will have that level advantage as well.
Joko putting some nice pressure down onto Pride, and this gives us a perfect opportunity to talk about these two junglers because they have quite unique styles. Pride, he's a bit of a selfish jungler. He spends a lot of his time just sitting in his own jungle, farming and warding around the map, but not really setting up for many ganks. Whereas Joko is the opposite of that. Just look at the jungle proximity difference between the two of them. That is the amount of time that our junglers spend around their laners within 2,000 units between the 3 and 15-minute mark. And Joko is second. This guy is so heavily involved in a lot of the early advantages and plays that Giants make.
Does mean that he dies more often though. That 0.6 deaths at 15 at the bottom. He's died 3 times before the 15-minute mark in their 5 games thus far. So sometimes can be a little bit too eager to make these plays.
Yeah, we saw that yesterday up against Roccat. He was one of the big reasons as to how Roccat were able to turn around that early deficit that Giants had built up for themselves. And it feels like Joko, he just doesn't respect his opposition sometimes. He doesn't think about the position of his teammates and how they can help him. Now Ruin about to go Mega Gnar, looking for a fight.
Wants to get the wallop down as well. Chachi has to flash away from it. Ruin on this Gnar is just so dominant.
He is behind in lane right now, though. Chachi has been using his level advantage very nicely. The same can be said for Steelback and Targamas. So much pressure going down onto this bottom lane of Schalke.
So Nukeduck used teleport back into the mid lane. Betsy's used his own as well. Betsy has the unsealed spellbook, though, and Nukeduck instead has gone for the electrocute. So he will not have that teleport up as soon, but the engage comes out. Pride in from the side. There's the gank, gets the stun down as well, and Pride with first blood for Schalke.
Very nice play there from Pride. We were just talking about how he, as an individual, does not really focus on going for those early ganks, but in combination with Nukeduck and taking advantage of the burst from the electrocute, we're able to get an early kill onto Betsy. He doesn't have his TP, now he doesn't have his flash. An early lead going over in favor of Schalke.
That's what we wanted to see from Pride. We said he was being a bit too selfish. Then he ganks mid lane, gets them a kill. Betsy's burnt teleport, so he has to walk back to the lane as well. So Upset TPing back here. He has a pickaxe to his name. Steelback has the same, but a refillable potion for a little bit of extra sustain in the lane if he needs it.
Only a single stopwatch down in the bottom lane. That's a rarity. If I do so, I'm actually very surprised that Targamas chose not to go for that. Quite interesting to what path he must have taken, given that he is running the Inspiration Tree. You would expect him to have the boots. We can track that a little bit later, but yeah, so early kill going over in favor of the middle lane. Nukeduck didn't pick it up, it was Pride. And we've talked a lot about Pride, we've talked a lot about how we wanted to see a lot from him, and right now he's kind of beating all the expectations that people put on him, changing his playstyle to now play this tank, being active in the early game rather than focusing on farming. And this is the kind of growth we want to see from this rookie. He didn't have the best split when he played for Roccat in summer of 2017. Expectations were that he could grow with these veterans. And we're starting to see a beginning of that here in week 3.
Oh, that's the Blaze. Vander's going to get forced back. Doesn't have Spellbook either, so he's just going to have to walk back to the lane. And although Giants have only got a 10 CS advantage in the bottom lane, we talked about it in the last game, Betty. It's about the chip damage on towards that tower. Already below half HP, Giants are looking for the first turret of the game.
You can see both Gragas and Zoe moving their way to the bot, potentially setting up for a dive, but Nukeduck has the ulti to join if things go south.
Hasn't moved from his lane yet. Smite from Joko gets it, and he maintains a level advantage. I'm not sure how much Giants need to invest into this bottom lane. As long as they know where Pride and Nukeduck are, they can just slowly chip away at this tower, and eventually it will fall.
Eventually it will indeed fall. The big thing the Giants have to be careful of is the all-in. The thing about range supports is they aren't very squishy. Now look at this damage from Betsy.
It's a lot, especially through the damage reduction that you get from the Shield of Durand. That big AoE that Galio can put out. But first tower of the game's going to fall at the 7.5 minute mark. And with it, Giants take a 1,000 gold lead.
Yep, but now Giants will look to swap and Schalke. They're going to go base early and predict it. I imagine they'll make their way towards the top side. Oh, but instead, Upset's going to catch the wave because he knows that the Ocean Drake will be taken from the side of Giants. So he knows he has the time. He should just push this wave out, head his way up to the top side, and match the swap that's likely going to come out from Giants. Because if they thought that that tower dropped quickly versus a Twitch, it's going to drop even faster against the Camille.
And although Vizicsacsi has this lead in the top lane, about 20 farm up, we haven't actually seen too much action up there. Both these top laners have been carries for their teams, though, especially Ruin. If you look at him, has quite a large investment from his jungler, 8.1%, the second highest, but is also participating in so many kills in the early game.
And the big thing we wanted to highlight here was that Chachi doesn't get a lot of jungle attention, but he performs so well in lane. The fact that he's playing this Camille, he's playing so forward in the lane, there's a risk of Djoko coming to gank him, but Chachi feels confident. He's able to hold his own and build up these very impressive leads. The main difference between the two is, though, that Ruin is always involved with his team. Chachi often spends a lot of time in the side lane. He prefers the 1v1. He prefers outplaying his opponents. Whereas Ruin, once he gets the lead, will often roam. He'll often try and join his team as often as possible. Try to force fights, because that is where his strength comes in. Flanking and having a huge impact in these 5v5 situations.
Just chasing down Chachi as well. Flashes in. There's the Hexa Ultimatum. We'll get the shield as well. And as Chachi will get away for the time being, but Vander is now caught out by Djoko, has the explosive cast. The flash away from Vander will get him to safety. The jump in from Betsy is not enough to make the connection.
Now, a lot of summoner spells being used, but Ruin, unfortunately for him, could not get the flash out from Chachi. The shield passive coming in for Chachi just at the right time to prevent Ruin from getting that last hit. Allowed him to walk away. But interestingly, Giants actually deciding not to swap. They're continuing their push down on the bottom. 3 members are now here, and Pride is nowhere to be seen. All these red wards littered throughout Schalke's bottom jungle will give Giants full information that they'll be able to take this tower for free.
And it's just going to be basically a free tower for them. Yes, they lose pressure on the top side of the map perhaps, but getting a second tier tower before the 10-minute mark is very clean macro play from Giants.
Good understanding of the strength of your composition and laners. Ruin left in a 1v1. Here comes the dive.
No flash for Ruin. He's going to have to do something magical to get away from this. Building up the Narbar. Jumps. Chachi there takes a lot of damage. Pride as well. Here comes the hero's entrance. And it's only Targamas who joins the fight. But the Pyroclasm's going to bounce onto Nukeduck. He goes ablaze. Ace in the hole to the back of Vizicsacsi gets a kill. 4 Giants with 2 TPs coming in. Schalke will just have to walk away.
The top lane party is here now as Steelback and Targamas arrive. They're able to trade the 1-for-1. Both top laners end up going down, but it felt like Giants were ready for that play to happen. Nukeduck sitting in the brush. He needs to back out of this situation.
Yeah. This is dangerous from him. Is he just going to stay around? Because if Giants check that bush at all, he is not in a good spot.
He's still here.
Vander's coming up.
Twitch has the teleport as well.
Okay, so maybe they're hoping Giants overextend, because here comes Nukeduck, triple taunt, but the TP comes in straight away from the Giants. They realize they need to react. Flash away from Targamas, and Giants will survive.
So I can see the play there. It does make sense from Nukeduck. He uses his flash, and funnily enough, 3 members of Giants use their flash as well. So let's have a look back at the dive. Ruin does his best to get out of this situation. He stays very close to his tower, tries to jump on top of Chachi to get a bit of distance, but unfortunately fails it. With the Galio ulti, he realizes, there's nothing I can really do. But then the moment the brand arrives and Schalke are forced to disperse, Steelback is able to come in and get the clean up kill. Very nice 1-for-1. And Schalke, fortunately for them, are able to hold on to this top tier 1 for the time being. But how long will that last?
And the question becomes, as the Hextech Ultimatum comes down as well, just trying to force Ruin away, but he doesn't really care. He's got the Mega building up. Good grapple away from Chachi. And Giants with a 2,000 gold lead at the 12-minute mark. With a Caitlyn, with the siege composition that they have. Seems like they're in a very good spot, Vedios.
Giants are feeling pretty happy, once again getting a decent early game lead. But typically it's around this point in the game where Djoko would make that fatal mistake. He would invade without the support of his team, he would get caught out of position, and then the game becomes sort of neutralized as a result of his misplays. So nice to see that so far Djoko has been able to resist the urge to make that over-eager play. And Schalke, they're playing on the back foot, but they do have that scaling. Remember, their win condition is very much about forcing these fights. Camille, even though she's a great duelist, she's kind of not the best of both worlds, but she's very good at both split pushing and team fighting, just not the master of either one of them. And so when these fights come in later on into the game, you're going to see her true value come in and diving onto targets like Steelback, like Betsy, stop them from slipping away, keep them within the Sejuani ultimate and the Galio ultimate, go for those insta-kills, and then set up Upset for the cleanup with the spray and pray.
It's actually his most played AD carry in the summer split of the Challenger Series was this Twitch, played it 3 times. Incredibly effective on it when he can scale up. And that's what Giants have been trying to stop, but they haven't really shut him down too much. He's still within 10 farm of Steelback. Betsy has about a 20 CS lead as well, and that top lane is well in favor of Vizicsacsi.
Here come all 4 members now for Giants. Betsy and Joko following up after the mid lane push, and they may have their eyes set on the tier 2 tower in the top lane, just a repeat play of what we saw on the bottom.
Especially since Joko has the Herald now as well, so they can try and force a bit more damage straight up on towards that. But I prefer to see it used in the mid lane, open up that bit of the map a little bit more, give Betsy more opportunities for flank plays.
I agree. I think that it makes the most sense, especially given that most of the wave clear from Schalke is the Galio. And if you just use the Rift Herald, you can much easier siege that turret down and gain so much control of the map.
We play towards this Infernal Drake as well. Giants have an Ocean under their belts and with an Infernal as well. Being a pretty steamy situation for them. That's what they're going to do. They've got okay vision control. 1 pink ward sitting in the jungle of Schalke, but they do know that Upset is on the top side of the map.
So they should be able to secure this one for free.
Is anything ever free in League of Legends, Vedians?
I've had this debate with Quickshot. He hates saying that things are free because technically you lose something.
But they lost their Razor Beaks.
Oh no. So yes, technically, as Quickshot would love to say, it is not for free. However, it was a great investment from Giants. Massive profits were gained.
It's like Bitcoin.
I don't think so.
Great investment off it?
Okay, yeah. For sure.
The Fisher would tell us that cryptocurrency is the way of the future.
Maybe. Regardless.
What's the way of the future for Giants?
The way of the future, keep doing what they're doing.
Yeah.
They have a great early game. They have a solid lead. The Infinity Edge is done for Steelback. And basically, they just want to split the map up like they're doing. Keep Joko around his bottom lane, because they're the biggest risk of getting engaged upon by the Twitch. Remember his sneakiness. He can go camouflage. Not invisibility, he can be camouflaged. And that means that if someone is within range, they will be able to spot him out. But given his spray and pray, he can stay just out of range, pop out of nowhere. There's a Galio. Oh, there's a Sejuani. You instantly get shut out, and then all of a sudden Schalke come back. So as long as they continue to respect that and just slowly work their way through these towers, Giants are definitely the ones in mainly control of the game.
And this is where you really start to see Giants Siege comp come on a line as well. You have the trap line set up, you've got Zoe jumping in from the side. Yep. Schalke have done a good job of reacting to it, and they're looking for the catch. Glacial Prison, but Targamas is going to cleanse that one out. The kill already on towards him is Upset opens up the rat-a-tat-tat. And Schalke will get a kill as Giants maybe overstep.
What were we just talking about? Like something about a hard engage,
yeah,
like the stealth from the Twitch, like there was, like you have to respect it. Well, Giants did not do that, Medic. They allowed the Twitch to walk up from the flank. Brand overextended in the middle lane. He thought that the cleanse would be enough, and he very quickly got punished. A great ultimate there from Prize to shut him down. The follow-up damage from Upset, very easy to clean up this very squishy target. So look, why are you standing here? No respect for the Twitch. Very easy to lock him down. And Upset's just like, this is an easy kill for me.
Yeah, strong stuff from Upset. Opens up with the Twitch ultimate. Of course, that extra range helping him out a lot, because Targamas did flash away from that as well, but wasn't able to get to safety. And now, it's building up towards that Infinity Edge, is almost there. Feels like this Twitch is very much online. Pride with the engage only onto Targamas here, but Twitch is on his way. The Hero's Entrance comes out as well, as Schalke once again make this ambush play.
I like the proactiveness from Schalke, but it's mainly just good vision control and punishment onto Targamas, who, for the second time now, has made a big misstep. Medic, I hate it when individuals walk through the Baron rather than around. It is so much safer to just go behind the pit Why do you need to go through the river? You don't know if you have full control of it. You can be much more confident that your area of the map is safer, especially with the comp that you drafted. Why do you need to take the risk? I never understand it.
As a low plat support main, it's quicker.
That's true. It is quicker, but so is your trip to the fountain.
That's true.
Targamas ends up dead. Schalke now getting a little more control over the map, and they have their eyes set on this tier 1 in the top.
That they do, and they've minimized that gold lead as well. It's only 1,000 in favor of Giants now, down from about 3,000 earlier on. Giants do still have the Infernal and the Ocean in their back pocket, but things aren't quite looking as crisp for them as they were just a while ago. There's the first tower of the game for Schalke up towards that top side, and you can see they're just trying to stop Giants from pushing any further. It's a good split push here from Ruin, but there's no towers for him to take, of course.
True. They will be able to take all of Schalke's bottom jungle, though. And without the Baron being a point of contention, Giants feel safe to concede the top half of the map. Red buff going over to Ruin will help in the 1 versus 1, but Giants yet to take this mid tier 1. Now that Upset has gone base, he's used his ultimate as well. I imagine this will finally be the final outer tower for Giants.
Taking them a little while longer than they would have liked, but they do clean it up in the end, and the towers equal their scoreline. 4-1 in favor of Giants. And still 1,000 gold lead for them as well. You've got a Morellonomicon finished on towards Betsy. You've got a Black Cleaver on Ruin as well, which I feel helps him out a little bit in this matchup into Camille.
Oh, for sure. Part of the core itemization. I wonder if he will choose to go for the Frozen Mallet, or instead he'll just go for the full tankiness. Depends very much on what their strategy is. If he wants to play a little bit more towards the split pushing, then the Frozen Mallet makes sense. Have that extra bit of utility, keep the Camille either arm's length or give you an extra bit of sticking power. But also, look at all this extra wave clear that's now been picked up for Chachi too. Completing the Tiamat along with the Trinity Force. This is a very strong split pusher for the side of Schalke.
Should be able to take this tower down. Will be second of the game for Schalke. And Schalke are playing around Vision incredibly well. You can see Nukeduck is pushing up in the top lane, but their whole red side jungle is littered with Schalke wards. As soon as someone steps into that jungle, Schalke know that Giants are on their way.
Yeah, that was all gained when Giants were trying to set up for the red invade. Schalke were happy to give that one up because now they're in a position to potentially steal away the enemy red themselves. But it also makes it easier when playing around the Baron because perhaps, yes, they cannot see the Baron itself. They have a good inclination as to when Giants will try to play for it. Flash from Betsy there.
Once again, looks like Upset came out of stealth and tried to get the engage. All 5 members of Schalke are in the area. Having equalized the gold lead, they seem a lot more aggressive in their playmaking. And a lot of that is on the back of Pride, who we wondered how well he would perform on this Sejuani. Seems to have had some good ganks, seems to have hit some good Glacial Prisms. Doesn't seem to be as selfish as perhaps he was in previous games.
They're like Pride so far has had a great game. And it's now getting much harder for Giants because Schalke are not afraid to engage. Upset positioning great in a lot of these siege situations from Giants, so that the moment an ultimate comes out from Pride or a flank comes in from Chachi, there is an immediate follow-up of damage from the Twitch. But now the Baron dance beginning. Nukeduck stuck between a rock and a hard place.
Has to flash away. A rock and a nap time, I think, is what he was stuck between there.
Traps being used as well from Giants to zone Schalke away, but they're the ones that have priority over the middle lane. 3 members of Giants are zoned up towards the top side of the map, and that vision from Schalke has now disappeared. But they don't want to commit towards the tower. Want to go back to base, spend some of their gold, and now look at that Twitch. Remember, he was in a big deficit earlier on. They lost all the towers. Giants are still up in towers, yet the gold is dead even. 2 items are finished for Upset. After finding those 2 picks onto Targamas, Giants just kind of took their foot off the pedal. They slowed down to a steady speed, and this is giving Schalke what they want to scale up. They're buying time. Sure, they've lost a couple of objectives and they've lost some control of the map, but now they're the ones that feel more confident to engage onto Giants the next time they try to make a siege play.
Giants are going to get their 3rd dragon of the game here, though, so there is another win condition for them here. If they can't fight around the Baron, they can always look for that Elder Drake after the 35-minute mark. There are 2 dragons between us now and that Elder Drake spawn if they are taken as they spawn. Next up is a mountain, which is going to facilitate both of these teams with their tower taking endeavors. And as we get to the later portion of this game, as the AD carries get to 2 items, the mid laners get to 2 items, Do you think that one team really has the scaling advantage, or to you does it look pretty similar?
I mean, I think Twitch is one of, if not the best late game hyper carry in the game, largely just due to his range. It makes it so much easier for him to threaten the backline, whereas many other carries have to rip through the front line before they can really start dealing damage. But it's all about positioning. And typically the biggest weakness for Twitch is how much he struggles in the early and how easy it is to shut him down, like setting up for dives, and especially someone who wasn't even running a stopwatch. You would imagine that they would invest heavily into the bot, but they thought that with the early towers they were taking, they'd be fine. But in the end, yeah, I definitely feel like Schalke do have the scaling advantage, but that doesn't mean that Giants have bad scaling. Zoe in the late game, still a big threat, lands a single bubble, even onto someone like a Sejuani or a Galio, it's going to hurt. And the same can be said for Caitlyn. Once she hits 4, 5, 6 items, she's going to be dishing out some serious damage. We saw what Kobbe could do on Splyce the other day where he secured himself a pentakill. And then you just have to add into the fact that Brand is no slouch either. There's a lot of damage on this comp.
Big chunk on towards Upset as well. He's sticking with the heal for the time being. Sleep does land on towards Pride. He's going to get knocked back. Targamas looking for some damage here. And he gets absolutely melted away. Vander with it re-engaged. Glacial Fissure comes out. Bessie's going to jump forward into the mix of two members. Another Sleep's going to land, but the Drowsy and Steelback gets the kill. Here's the flank from Chachi as he takes down one. Already two members of Giants have fallen. Nye's on his way, but Ruin is nowhere near this fight yet. Joker's going to get exhausted. That's a double for Chachi, and Schalke get 3.
We've typically praised Ruin for joining these fights so quickly, but Chachi is able to get there so much sooner. Upset loses his life, but they get 3 in exchange, and Schalke, they win a massive team fight.
Upset did die, and I was about to say he'd been sticking with the heal instead of splitting to a cleanse, which is something we sometimes see on AD carries here. He was trying to back away, didn't quite make it. Let's have another look at this.
So the ultimate gets used, the Drowsy falls onto Pride. He then gets knocked in, he's the target. Look at all the damage this Brand does, but then Upset unleashes. He rips through Betsy, who very aggressively fashes forward. A great ultimate from Pride, too, allows him to get the kill onto the Brand and the follow-up from the Zoe. And the fact that Ruin arrived so late meant that Chachi was free to do as he pleases. Get onto every carry, dish out the damage that he's got from the Trinity Force, and enable Schalke to come out for a 3-for-1.
And Chachi getting those 3 kills helps him so much more in the side lane as well. Ruin is sitting on 2 items. Chachi has the Ravenous Hydra and the Trinity Force completed now with a 40 CS advantage. This is more like the Vizicsarchi we expected to see coming into this split.
Certainly is. 3-1-0 right now. Significant lead over Ruin. A player that we have been watching a lot and so far hasn't had the same level of impact that he's had over the first 2 weeks of pro play. Speaking of,
Ruin having to use the ultimate just to stop Chachi from actually putting more damage down, and with that split push pressure coming in, Giants are going to have to find a way to react. Naruto Adore yesterday in the interview said that they just play the meta better than anyone else, and they could react to any changes that arose. At the moment, they cannot react to Vizicsarchi split pushing in this side lane.
No, they cannot. So now things are starting to get difficult for Giants because ideally they want to be the ones setting up for sieges, trying to utilize the poke and pick power that they have with the Brand and with the Zoe. But Schalke are always looking for opportunities to engage, and they may have just found one.
Joker's going to get stunned up, but can just jump across the wall. The Blaze comes out good. Glacial Fissure onto Targamas, and already they've taken him down. Now comes the re-engage. Cold is low, so it's Joker, though. And there's going to be a lot of damage. Cold isn't even in this game. That's how low he is. There's the kill from Betsy on towards Van. Upset goes down as well. Takes a snipe to the back, and 3 members of Giants survive. What
initially looks like a bad fight for Giants ends up being an even trade, as Giants now 3 members strong have their eyes set on this tier 2 tower in the middle lane. Giants able to turn around what should have been a dire situation, and Schalke, they end up losing their bottom lane.
So as we're going to rewatch this, I assume we're going to replay in just a second. I want to think about who makes a mistake here. Is it Giants just playing really well? Is it Schalke overextending into a fight? That's the question I really want to answer.
So I feel like Schalke are the ones to get a good initiation off, but their focus is again on Targamas and Joko. These aren't really the key targets that you need to be killing in the fights, because as long as Targamas is able to maybe land a stun, but primarily throughout the ulti, Chachi, he is by himself here.
He's going to go to sleep, tries to get to the blast cone. We'll be able to knock back, but it comes out from Ruin, and Chachi takes such a massive amount of damage.
What are you doing, Chachi? That is not acceptable. Trying to go for a blue solo in the enemy jungle without any support or vision. That is not what I would expect from our veteran player. That is a poor decision. And unfortunately, it is something that we have consistently seen from Chachi. He gets caught out of position far too often. He makes these overzealous plays, and now this could cost his team a Baron.
Giants going to start up the Baron. Gold perfectly even. You can see the flank coming in here from Pride. Gets the stun onto Targamas. He's going to tank up the Baron, but Pride is now caught out. Targamas flashes away. The Pyroclasm's going to bounce Upset on the back lines. He's getting onto Steelback, and he will get the kill, but he goes down as well. And now it's up to Betsy and Targamas to try and fight this one out. Ends up being 3 for 3. Giants even out the fight.
Wow, that was a pretty crazy fight, considering that Chachi wasn't in the thick of things, and now he's rejoining his team to win out the fight in the end.
Can Betsy get away? Has the flash, flashes the wall, and a second flash. Chachi takes a Paddle Star to the face. There's the Sleepy Bubble Trouble as well. But the Hero's Entrance will stop Betsy going any further. That fight was chaos.
Yeah, it was. I'm surprised the Giants didn't win it much harder, to be honest, because I saw Upset get knocked into the entire Giants lineup by a really good Gragas ultimate from Joko. I want to see what he does from there. So this was the fight from earlier where they engage onto Joko, but he splits away from the bottom lane. So they immediately go onto Targamas, but they knock out Steelback, and this should have been the target they were going for, because Vander's just trying to buy time for the rest of his team to disengage, and Upset walks over a control ward, allowing the Caitlyn to get the ultimate pick off. And if they had just focused Steelback at the start and killed him, perhaps they could have stayed in the fight for a little bit longer, but at the very least, they wouldn't have lost their AD carry.
So the fight keeps going. They push out mid lane, they take the tower, and then they come back towards this Baron after Vizicachi is caught out. Let's have a look at this Baron setup.
So keep your eyes on the positioning of Upset, because this is a dream for him. All of them grouped up in the middle of the pit.
Oh, Vander's got caught out here. Joko, though, might be the one that takes the damage. Vander down to about half. Upset's going to tank that one up for his teammate. Giants are just forcing fight after fight after fight, and neither team really seems to have the upper hand.
But I feel it's weird, because Schalke have the stronger team fight comp we've seen. Even when they are a man down, it is Schalke consistently, at the very least, going even in a lot of these big trades in the mid-game.
Fourth Dragon of the game, though, for Giants, and the next one will be an Elder Drake as well, with it being past that 35-minute mark. So if Giants are able to play around that, a secondary game-ending objective, a secondary win condition for them, they really put Schalke on a clock. And we've seen a lot more action this game, Vedius, but it's just, to me at least, has seemed very haphazard, very all over the place. Teams don't quite seem to know exactly who they're trying to catch out.
That seems like a... I don't know if I'd say...
I'm just looking at Steelback in that last fight.
Right,
like, they didn't catch him.
The target focus, right? Like, when it comes to these fights, perhaps Schalke, they're a little bit ditchy. It could have even just been a misclick, right? Chachi had his eyes on the Brand, but it was just, oh, it's ever so slightly the Caitlyn. Regardless, right, Baron being started, Giants are the ones to kick it off.
3,000 HP left on it. They might just try and secure this one. The smite comes out, but Pride steals it away. And here comes Upset. Giants are going to be able to get away from the back of the pit. There's Schalke holding on to hope in this game.
Giants, guys, what are you doing? Going for the 50-50. That was such a big gamble. And also grouping up in the Baron pit against Upset. Pride steals it away. Now Schalke, they're the ones in the position. They have a great team fight comp. They have the ability to even dive these towers with the Galio and the Braum. And now with the Baron, they're the ones that have the power when it comes to siege.
And the split from Chachi just becomes stronger as well. He has a 2-level advantage over Ruin in this side lane. Ruin really cannot deal with this Camille, who now also is 80 farm ahead. Vizicachi has had a strong performance this game, and perhaps he is what Schalke need to lead them to victory.
Chachi also almost cost his team the game, so I would, while yes, he has had a good 1v1 presence, his team have certainly been picking up some of the slack. Nukeduck and Upset really have been big carries for the team, and Pride stepping up huge for this Schalke squad. A lot of criticism was going towards him, but I feel like he's stepping it up here in week 3.
Glacial Prism lands on towards Joko. Chachi looking for the flank. There's the Hexagon Ultimatum and the Hero's Entrance onto Steelback. He's not gonna survive getting dunked by Nukeduck. Schalke get 2 kills.
And that's the kind of combo you want to be seeing from Schalke. They initiate the moment Giants slightly overstep, and then Chachi's easily able to dive onto the backline. Now with no AD carry, the wave clear is primarily gone. Schalke have their eyes set on this inhibitor.
They should be able to take down the inhibitor tower at least. Chachi's trying to push in with this big minion wave in the top wave as well. Looks like Schalke will retreat from the inhib for the time being. Chachi's going to back away from top. Misses? the wall jump. Ruin's going to get for the chase here, but not going to be able to land any more damage.
Yeah, the slow from the W of Chachi. Able to buy a little bit of time to get away. He's now going to go back to base. And Schalke have reclaimed control. So the engage here. Ideally they want to get onto Steelback, but that's fine because Chachi does enough damage to finish that one off. He allows Nukeduck to take the kill because Chachi doesn't want to stay underneath the tower. And just overall, a good engage from Schalke. You're starting to see this teamwork come together for this team. They were very much about an investment. This was a long-term plan. This was a team that they said right from the get-go, perhaps we wouldn't be one of the strongest. But they are a week 5, week 6 team, and already in week 3, they are certainly looking good.
And you have to remember, they've gone 1-1 every week, which is a fine score. It's better than some of our main teams. Like, you compare it to Fnatic, who thus far aren't looking as strong. They're in a very fine spot coming into playoffs and the rest of the split. And with an 8,000 gold lead, 9,000 just now as it ticks over. They're looking in a very strong spot in this game. 4 items completed on Upset. He's got the Mercurial Scimitar as well now, which helps him out so much against those Sleepy Trouble bubbles. You've got 4 items on your Galio, who's gone predominantly AP as well. 3.5 with the Haunting Guys.
Oh, he has. We barely talked about Nukeduck because of so many of the other carries. This is something that we've been seeing a lot more on Galio, given the AP ratio buff that he was given, but we don't have time because Schalke have their eyes set on the base of Giants.
Vander puts up the Unbreakable. It's a 1-3-1 as Chachi jumps onto Ruin. Targamas here, trying to get the Seer, the stun, the Glacial Prism, and Upset's on a rampage, trying to open up onto Targamas. Upset flashes in, and he's going to get a double. He will fall for it, though. Nukeduck unable to keep him alive with that hero's entrance. The Winds of War meet Targamas, though, and Schalke North looking very clean as they end out this game.
They will be able to take the mid inhibitor without the 80 carry. They might not have the damage to be in, but to be able to end rather. But they will be able to take at least another inhibitor tower. TP coming in from Chachi. Let's see what they can do.
At least another inhibitor tower, maybe double inhib as well, which can be a death knell for many a team. A 12,000 gold lead now for Schalke. Are they going to go any further? Justice Punch from Nukeduck, but doesn't actually want to engage on towards Joker.
They're respecting the respawn timers, 9 seconds now on many members of Giants. So they will go back to base, spend their gold, and now they can look to deny this Elder Drake and very likely end the game. Can have a look back at how this all kicked off. Visit Chachi in the 1 versus 1. Ruin feels, if I can just relieve some of the pressure, will be good. But he doesn't realize that, oh, I don't have Mega Null, I can't go for the all-in, and Chachi gets a great outplay with Shout. But Upset probably didn't need to do that. Good couple of crits coming out from the Caitlyn in order to turn that one around, along with some of the damage from the Brand too.
Look at the level advantage as well for Schalke here. They've got 2 level 18 carries compared to level 17 and 17 on Betsy and Ruin. You've got a 2 level advantage, and you've got the engage on towards Joker in the mid lane as well. And just overextensions here from Giants. Not the best play. Chachi tries to jump in. The Nars going to knock him back. Here's the hero's entrance as well. Betsy gets dunked, and Nukeduck's on the chase on towards Steelback. The Winds of War just melting through them. This is going to be an ace for Schalke, and it should be the game.
Oh, and Chachi, he doesn't respect the blaze. You can see him laughing as he drops, but Schalke should secure the win and go 1-1 in week 3.
A much more confident performance here from Schalke 04. Looking much more like a team that has synergy, that knows how to play around their power spikes, that can react, and that can enact a win here against Giants. Giants fall to 4-2, but Schalke are going to round out week 3 at 3-3 as they take the Nexus.
Very slowly.
There we go, they got it in the end.
Schalke with a good win there. I love the confidence in their engages. We've seen many teams struggle to find fights against Zoe. But it all comes back to the picks that they found onto Targamas, the Brand. Getting those 2 quick kills in succession gave Schalke so much more control over the map and allowed them to readjust, complete some of their big items, and then they were able to reassess, okay, now we're in a position to force fights. Now we're in a situation where if they come near our turrets, we're gonna go in. They utilize their team comp effectively, and they secure themselves another win.
Much more confident stuff from them, much better all round. The synergy looked as if it was there, whereas times in the past it just hasn't quite seemed to click. Giants, on the other hand, played a good early game. We've been complimenting their early game. It's just some of those late game overextensions cost them dearly.
Yeah, a couple of individual mistakes on the side of Giants. As you rightly said, the 2v2 in the bottom lane heavily in their favor. They had the advantage in the matchup. They were able to push very effectively. They moved around the map very cleanly. They got a very early tier 2 tower. But then just a couple mistakes here and there. And really what sealed the coffin was that Baron. They went for the 50-50 smite. The miss smite from Joko allowing Pride to get the steal. If Giants secure it, yes, it's a great play. Yes, they might be able to get out. They then have the Baron, or their siege comp is actually really good then. But by losing it, they then couldn't stop the Schalke powerhouse of just steaming it down mid lane and running it into their base.
And don't forget to give us your vote for player of the game. It stands between Vizicsacsi, Upset, and Pride. If you think one of those players deserves the win, head over to @LOLesports on Twitter and give us your choice. Personally, Pride for me. We wanted him to step up. He, I believe, went unkilled that game, had a very strong performance on the Sejuani, did a lot more than he has done in the past. And I was just very pleased to see him playing as part of a cohesive team and being a little bit more selfless for his rest of his squad.
2-0-17. So that was involved in 19 of Schalke's 22 kills. Definitely much more of what we wanted from the jungler of Schalke.
Coming up next, Rocket and Fnatic look to bounce back after yesterday's loss as they face off in our next game. We'll return with that and an interview with Upset right after this. He will not have that teleport up.